If you look at dopamine like a game, how you feel throughout the day can get 10 times better. There's a video on my channel about dopamine. The title of the video is called Dopamine System Explained for Dumbasses. And there's a video on Andrew Huberman's channel about dopamine. Not sure exactly what it's called, but there is a video, a very long video about dopamine. And those two videos were the ones I used to get my knowledge, as well as lots of research that I did, and Hamza's information that he talks about in his videos. So all of these things come together and form the knowledge that I have about this, and will explain to you. I'm using the knowledge that I got from Andrew Huberman's video and the knowledge that I already have about dopamine to explain this to you and give you this video. So if you don't know what dopamine is, it is a hormone that determines our energy levels, how we feel, our mindset, as well as being a big component in our feelings of motivation and drive. Craving is partly caused by dopamine levels or determined by dopamine levels. Dopamine is a neuromodulator in the brain. This means that it is responsible for controlling the dialogue between many neurons, not just one or two at a time. And that gives it a lot of its power in controlling drive, motivation, and all the other things I talked about. So, someone who has low energy levels, low levels of drive, no motivation or no ambition, is almost certainly, that person feels that way almost certainly because of their dopamine levels and having low dopamine levels. Well, it's a low amount of dopamine that's constantly circulating. This dopamine that is constantly circulating in your brain or in your body is called the tonic level of dopamine, or we call it the baseline. So you can also call it the tonic baseline, but the amount that you have circulating in you right now at almost all times is called, at all times is called the tonic baseline. It's the amount of dopamine that is always circulating in your system. There are the tonic and phasic terms for dopamine. Tonic being the baseline, the tonic baseline, and phasic being the dips and peaks in your dopamine levels. The way you can remember this is the way I remember this is tonic being a ton, the first three letters, ton. Because it's a ton, it is set there. You can't move it, can't pick it up, can't bring it down. The tonic baseline is just there. Phasic is, this is one phase of my life, it was here and now it's gone. So the phasic would be the thing that was here and now gone. If that helped you remember, then cool. If you don't remember, stick it up on your wall or try to remember it in a different way. Okay. Okay, now this is where it gets fun. This is the kind of game part about it. Your life gets better or worse in all areas that I talked about before, from the amount of tonic dopamine or the tonic dopamine baseline, depending on where this baseline is. So all of the things that I listed earlier are determined by how much your tonic baseline carries in your system at all times. Now you have 100% control over the amount of dopamine that you have in your tonic baseline constantly circulating in your system. And I'll teach you how to control this dopamine in this video, which will make you feel better, more alive, more motivated, and push through hard work better, and be more open throughout the day. So that's what I'll go through in this video. So how do you trigger a phasic release in dopamine? A phasic dip or peak in dopamine. You can cause a peak in dopamine by releasing dopamine. You can release dopamine by pursuing pleasure. It is important to know that it is the pursuit of pleasure, not the actual pleasure itself. For example, not the pleasurable taste you get in your mouth when you take a bite of that chocolate, but rather the feeling you get in your mind when you take another bite and instead not stop or put it away. Another example would be not the pleasure of seeing the next TikTok video, but rather the feeling your brain gets when you scroll to the next video instead of getting off of the app. I hope those made sense in any way. Those are just some ways that you can get a peak in dopamine, or some ways that you can release dopamine, which causes a peak. Now, how do you get a dip in dopamine? It's the exact opposite of the peak, a dip. So, for example, you get a peak from eating the chocolate, getting a release in dopamine. The dip comes from when you do something that is unpleasurable, difficult, high ROI, something delaying gratification, something that is hard to do now. That is how you get the dip in dopamine. So, you feel good for the peak, and it's more uncomfortable for the dip. So that is how you cause a dip or peak in your dopamine levels. Now, what happens after this? What happens after this release or dip in dopamine to your overall dopamine levels? The peak in dopamine is inevitably going to go up above your baseline and then come back down below the baseline, causing your tonic baseline to go further down. So it's up for a peak, do something pleasurable, goes up, turns around, goes back down. Below, and when it's below, baseline goes down. The exact same is the exact same for the dip. You get the dip in dopamine, then it turns around, goes up, making your dopamine tonic baseline higher. It's inevitably going to happen. If you get a release in dopamine, goes peak, goes back down. That's why you feel so bad after you ate chocolate, did something pleasurable. And the same is for if you do a workout, go on a run, and why you feel so much discomfort doing it, but then after, you're happy, you feel good about yourself and all of that. So, also, excuse my sickness. I am sick, so I'm really trying to do my best throughout this video. So, the dip in dopamine and making it come back up, increasing your tonic baseline. When the tonic baseline increases or decreases, that determines how you feel. And if your tonic baseline decreases, it decreases the overall amount of dopamine in your system, which makes you feel worse. It goes up, increases the overall amount in your system, makes you feel better. That is how you control your dopamine baseline. So, if you want to know how to control the dopamine baseline, do something that is uncomfortable, unpleasurable, put you in discomfort, and your dopamine will dip and peak, making you feel better in the long run. It's called delaying gratification as well. I'll get to that soon. So why does this matter? Why should you care about what I'm saying to you about dopamine? Well, the consequences of extremely low tonic dopamine constantly circulating in your system could cause depression, anxiety, and other mental illnesses, along with signs of low energy and low drive/motivation, which then causes low ambition in your mind and in your body, and more. And this is where a dangerous loop comes in. You drink the alcohol or eat the junk food or do whatever you do to get a peak in dopamine. After that, you feel really bad with the dip because you got your phasic levels up. You feel good. Now it goes down, making you overall feel worse. So your tonic baseline goes down, you feel worse. What do? Most people would try to look for that instant gratification peak in dopamine again, just to make them feel better now, which makes you experience a lot of negative side effects. Goes up, goes down, makes you feel worse overall, and you want to feel better, so you get another peak and another down. And it goes until deep depressions, very bad mental illnesses, etc. Following this loop too far and too constantly could cause a dangerous decrease in dopamine levels, which may cause dangerous effects. Can you prevent the dangers of dopamine? Simply look at dopamine as a game. And when you want to do something that could simply look at dopamine, simply look at dopamine like a game when you want to do something that decreases your tonic baseline level. Stop doing it and do something else. You can make sure your tonic dopamine levels are high by doing uncomfortable things. And you can do this by making sure you get some painful things throughout the day. Painful things doesn't actually have to be physically painful, but some things can just be like what the average person wouldn't think of doing anyway. So, because it's too long or boring or anything else the average person might say. Some examples for this would be meditation, reading, working out, or working, cold exposure, cold showers, etc., working out, running, exercise, and more. These tasks are what we call delayed gratification tasks, and if you've been in the self-improvement space for a while, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Earlier, I talked about instant gratification, which is basically sacrificing your future self's health, progress, and happiness for your current self's pleasure. These are the activities that usually cause a peak in phasic dopamine, which then overall decreases your tonic baseline of dopamine, which makes you feel worse over time. In terms of dopamine, instant gratification gives you a peak in dopamine, feeling good now, despite the fact that your future self will have to experience the decrease in your tonic dopamine levels. The opposite, delayed gratification, is doing the hard work now as your current self and experiencing that struggle now, so that your future self can experience the rise in dopamine and the rise in your tonic level, feeling better in the long run, making you more energetic, motivated, happy, all of that, and fulfilled and proud. These two sayings, or terms, instant gratification and delayed gratification, are two big terms in self-improvement and the self-improvement space. And I think that if you can understand these and live by them, and every day, constantly, consistently, then you can become very successful with a lot of things by thinking in terms of how your future self would feel, compared to the small phasic release in dopamine that you would get now from a bad thing. These are such important things to remember. I would even suggest writing them on a piece of paper and sticking them on the wall. If you want to go even further, then you can probably write them down, like instant gratification and even what they mean under. And stick that on your wall. Of course, I've got a lot of them, but I haven't got that specific thing. So, if you would focus on your future health, your future progression, happiness, and all of that, and your future dopamine levels as well, his body, his mental health, and physical health, and work towards making his life better for your sacrifice of your current pleasure, then that is most probably what you're going to do to get the highest dopamine levels. It is sure to increase your overall dopamine levels. Now, there's the David Goggins route. Well, that's what I call it, at least. You could take the David Goggins route. This is when you push your body to the limits, and regularly, just like David Goggins does, by constantly waking up early, going to the gym, running kilometers or miles, swimming far distances, biking, hiking, doing stuff like that is painful, and is sure to give you a dip in dopamine, which then peaks above your tonic baseline, making your tonic baseline higher. This David Goggins route part of the video, the David Goggins part of the video, which is this part, is just for people that might want to take a more painful route like him, like David Goggins, or for people that are more physical or have a purpose that is physical. Now, dopamine receptors, this isn't really about what you can do to affect your dopamine. This is just a nice part to understand. Your dopamine receptors are the things that feel and take in the dopamine when dopamine is released. The receptors are what you feel doing the work after you have scrolled into the next TikTok video 5 times. What happens to the receptors when you watch TikTok for too long is they go through so many releases of dopamine that after quite a while they feel burnt down and they feel like there's too much stress, too many releases. They start to fry. And there's so much strain on them that they dull down, fry, and you kind of stop feeling the release in dopamine. Especially when you should. This is very dangerous for your dopamine levels and your tonic level. But that is not what I'm going to be talking about any longer. So, actionable step for now, game part. This is the game part of looking at dopamine. So as an actionable step, I want you to draw this on a piece of paper or online and put it as your wallpaper or something like that. Okay, I'm going to draw it with you. So get a piece of paper, pen and paper, pencil and paper or anything like that, and draw this out with me or online and stick it up on the wall if you are going to do it on paper. So you can draw just like a normal line like this. So you can also label them tonic. So I've labeled them tonic. These are your tonic levels in dopamine. Now here would be delayed. This is the delayed baseline. This is when you have something uncomfortable and you get a dip. Now what happens is it goes back up. It goes even higher, making your baseline, new baseline here. So that's the delayed gratification part. Do something uncomfortable, gives you a dip, and then a big peak in dopamine, which increases your baseline from here to here, making you feel better. Now this is the instant gratification part of the dopamine. Now what you do here is you do something pleasurable, eat a chocolate or whatever, then it goes down below the baseline, and then that causes the baseline to move down, and this will be the new one. So draw these two things, how a instant gratification baseline is caused, and what happens when you delay gratification. Stick them up on your wall. It's very important to have that, and to have that constantly in your face when you're just living normally, because it's very important to have that information. Those two things, instant and delayed gratification, especially what they do to your dopamine levels, if you look at it like a game, like, ooh, oh, if you look at this dopamine like a game and kind of play it in the right way to level up your tonic baseline, it may just help you become happier, more fulfilled, more proud of yourself, more motivated, and all of the things that I've been talking about before this. By looking at dopamine like a game, you may see an amazing increase in how you feel regularly. By this, I mean, if you're looking at the chocolate right now, telling yourself not to eat it, but you want to eat it, just think about how it will give your tonic baseline a little decrease, which may really make you feel worse in the future. Think about how the hard things that you're doing may affect your dopamine levels. and how they would give you the dip and then big increase in the future to make you feel better in the long term. I know it might be hard, but you will feel better. And that's for sure. I hope you learned something valuable and useful in this video. I hope this video changed you in some way. I don't really like to do this, but if you know someone that could use this information, please share it to them, or simply tell them about it so they can go and watch it themselves. Or maybe if you like one of my other videos more, just tell someone about that one. Just tell someone close that I'm on here on YouTube working as hard as I can for a better life for me and my viewers and other people around the internet, because I really want to get my message out there to hopefully help some people. Also, if you guys really like my content and my message and what I stand for, what I do, and what I explain, or the information I give to people, and you'd like to support me for nothing in return yet, I really want to get a product out to you so you get an ROI. But I have nothing to give to you, but if you want to support me, then I've got my PayPal in the description. So if you do want to help me out a bit and show some support, that's in the description. Everything you can give is appreciated, and I hope you can get something to me, and I hope I can get something to you soon, like a package or a product or something that you can gain from, so that you're not just kind of giving it away, and I'm giving you something in return to help you and increase your knowledge or better yourself. So yeah, my PayPal will always be in the description, so if you're interested in that, everything is appreciated. Hope this helped.